Peace family, it's Jay Morrison, the founder of your school, and I want to welcome you to our self-mastery course. This is a very informal course, kind of a personal discussion between myself and you, and I'll also be inviting in my sister Roberta Hosky, fellow instructor in our school, to kind of give us a motivational course, something you guys can reference daily or weekly or whenever you want. These different lessons we're going to be offering you on personal development, which we call self-mastery, right? How to master yourself and master the intangible habits and skills that you're going to need to be an overachiever in life and in business. So I want to start this because I can't assume that everyone knows my journey, my story, and there's still parts of my journey and story I haven't even exposed or disclosed to the general public. But I want to just tell you guys that, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, when you hear me talk about my journey from being in poverty, growing up in poverty, from drug abuse in my home, to physical abuse in my home, verbal abuse, emotional abuse in my home as an adolescent, as a kid, which really affected me. I grew up an angry teenager. I was angry in middle school, angry in high school, dropped out of high school when I was 16 years old, just fed up with the frustrations from life. Left home at 16, so I dropped out of high school, and then also left home at 16 years old. Started selling drugs in the streets with, cousins and friends and trying to find a way. Like sometimes hungry with $2 in my pocket, just trying to figure out where can I get some chicken wings and fried rice. Going through those experiences, going back to high school, to, making my mind up that it was important for me to graduate, at least get a basic education. Graduating high school, but then going through the trials and tribulations of the streets, getting incarcerated, locked up at 18 years old, facing 3 years to life in prison. Being on Rikers Island, C-74, Mod 3 Upper in upstate New York, serving prison time around gangbangers and gangsters and kidnapped kids, and getting a whole new experience of what it's like to have your freedom taken from you. Going through that adversity in life, bouncing back from that, going back into the streets, showing some resilience at a young age of 19, and then getting locked up again and again and having 3 felonies in 3 different states, serving time in 7 different prisons over 2.5 years. All these things I say, not as talking points. I say all of them because I really want you guys to get a feel for whatever you're going through in your real life. I want to share and be vulnerable and be authentic about my real life. I don't want to give you the fluffed over stories that you hear a lot of these motivational experts talk about, the things they've been through, and everybody has a story. Everybody has some kind of adversity in life, whether it be mental, emotional, physical, financial, or however. But what I'm trying to say is I truly believe that God brought me from and brought me through every single thing I've been through to be a testament to somebody. I've experienced racism in my life. I've experienced abuse. I've experienced bankruptcy. I've experienced being broke. I've experienced being rich. I've experienced being spiritually aligned, unspiritually aligned, purpose-driven and selfless, and being selfish. You know what I'm saying? So I've been through all these things in this course, and I remember growing up, my mom and my grandmother would tell me when I was born, right, October 30th, in a newspaper they would have what your child would be, and it said your child would be a philosopher. And so I always was intrigued by that, and I think this course and the books that I've written and the way I share my ideologies and philosophies, it's just a big testament to how I live life. I do have ideas, I do have purpose, and I want to share my philosophies and my experiences, my ideologies with you all so you can take them and run with them. And even if you can't relate to every single story experience I have, you can at least compare my experiences with yours and be motivated or inspired by them. But not only just being motivated and inspired within the J. Morrison Academy, you also have a blueprint on how you can build wealth and be successful. I don't want you to leave my courses or my workshops or my seminars or conferences just pumped up and you have no idea what to do with yourself. That would be immature of me, or that would be irresponsible of me as an influencer, as a leader, and as your mentor. So the purpose of this course, particularly, is to get you inspired and pumped up so you can take advantage of the other courses, classes, and lessons that we offer and be very resilient, purposeful, driven, and intentional about executing the lessons and the courses and information that we're giving you. So, even in business, I had some big decisions to make. I became a national brand as a celebrity realtor on NBC's Open House NYC, as a real estate expert for the Today Show on NBC. This is coming out of being a 3-time felon, a welfare kid, a high school dropout, who hung with gangbangers, dope boys, and crackheads. And here I am on NBC as a national figure. working for Sotheby's International Realty, the world's largest luxury real estate company. And I had a decision to make as God put a purpose in my heart to empower those least amongst us and to go back into my community and see where I could offer service and use my talents to the maximum of my capacity. See, we all get talents and gifts, and you can use those talents and gifts just to serve you. We'll talk about that in our later lessons, right? To serve you and your why. Or you can use those talents and gifts to serve a greater purpose larger than yourself. And that's what I want you guys to take away from this course. Not only being inspired and motivated, but diving in and finding your why and your purpose. And once you do that, it is a peaceful life. It's a different experience, I'm telling you. I've made millions of dollars, literally. I'm talking about millions in assets, millions in the bank. I'm talking about all the way up, but was miserable inside. Had no peace inside. Because I always was chasing a dollar or trying to buy something to make me happy. Buy some shoes, buy a chain, buy a watch, because I had no inner purpose. I had nothing larger than myself to live for. You know, I had my kids and my parents and my daughter at that time, my parents, but it wasn't really enough to be gratifying to my soul. Because the universe, the creator, the higher power, God, however you see him, her, or it, has a larger purpose for us than just ourselves and our personal whys. And so I want you guys to get a lot out of this course. Roberta's going to be awesome. She has so much passion. I call her my sister, not just because she's in the J. Morrison Academy with me or because we're of the same ethnicity. I call her my sister because we are so aligned. We are so on the same page. You guys are going to hear from her and hear her amazing story of triumph. I also appreciate her being in our academy and being a part of this course because, of course, I'm going to relate to everybody, you know, kings and queens, men and women. But I want Roberta and a queen to be next to me so she can help relate better to inspire more queens, or maybe it might inspire more kings hearing from a woman, right? We all learn from different people different ways. Without further ado, Queen, please join us.
Absolutely.
You're right on time.
All right.
As I just did an intro talking about, you know, just my story and what I want everyone to gain from this course in regards to finding their why, finding their purpose, having a resource for inspiration and motivation to support them in the rest of our curriculum.
Got it.
And just really, and again, what I love about Roberta is that she's very authentic, we're very transparent, and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, sharing a lot of personal stories that our families might cringe over, right? So, and that's my main thing, is I want to open up, and I appreciate her opening up, you know, our real lives, to be as vulnerable as possible with you all, so you guys can see that there's everyday kind of people, people that you can relate to, or people that have been through circumstances worse than yours or near yours. Maybe your life has been more challenging than ours, but at least you can see that someone somewhere has had some challenges too, and you're not alone. And that if you follow these self-mastery steps and tips and the advice and lectures we're going to give you, that you too can overachieve. This ain't about just making it, getting by. It's about overachieving in life, like that. And that's what I'm so thankful to God and I'm humbled by. Is that, you know, I always go back to my 17-year-old self and my 16-year-old self and just think about, you know, just all those experiences in my life. Like, I remember, even my mom, when I was 8, 9 years old, my mom would drive to New York, to Harlem, New York from New Jersey. My mom would have me in the back seat. She was going to see her weed dealer. My mom would pick up pounds of weed with me in the car, leave me in the car in Harlem at 8 years old, lock the door, say, boy, don't go nowhere, and come back a half hour later with bags. And just looking at all these, I could go stories for days, all these intricate experiences of who I could have become and how my life could have went so left, and it did go left. But how I was able to, by the grace of God, I was able to bring it back and not just, you know, have a 9-to-5 job and do okay for myself and not be locked up or not be on the corner, but I'm talking about overachieving in life, super exceeding expectations, right? And that's what we want for you all, is to supersede your own expectations and overachieve in your own life. And without ado, Queen, I want you just to share with them, you know, your story of triumph. You know, I say from the block to the boardroom, or from the corner to the corner office, and Queen's going to tell you how she went from welfare to wealth. So I want to give you the stage for our students today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be part of this course because it is very important that we understand self-mastery and understand that we have control over the destinies that we ultimately end up having. You know, we said from welfare to wealth, and there's a big difference between being on welfare and being wealthy. And in life I learned a lot, but today I am the president of Outreach Realty Services. which is a real estate brokerage housed in Connecticut. And we have real estate agents that work within that company. And that company has departments. It has a property management department, a tenant placement department. It also has a construction department within that company. Also have a real estate school, a brick and mortar outreach school of real estate. And we license people that want to become real estate professionals in the state of Connecticut and 11 other reciprocal states. I also am the president of RH Development, RH Roberta Hosky Development Partners, and we develop properties. We're in the process right now of building an elderly facility from ground up using tax credit dollars. I am the majority holder for MET Construction Management, which is my children's company, because what we're going to talk about is also generational wealth, and which is my children's company, MET Construction Management, which manage construction projects using some government funds as well. But before I was any of those presidents, before I had any of those titles, I was a single mother on welfare. I was pregnant at 17 in the 90s with a little brown boy. And you know what that means. Picture someone that you know at the age of 17, or picture yourself at 17, or picture your daughter at 17, your niece, your cousin, someone that you know at 17. So now you see that person in your mind, you see her? Now, imagine her dropped out of high school, right? So you see her. Now she's not even in high school. She dropped out of school. And she connects with a drug dealer. And she ends up getting pregnant. But she always had this attitude problem. Like, oh, this attitude problem. Nobody could tell me anything. I know everything. And was ready to fight all the time. You better get out my face, right? That type of attitude. Ready to fight all the time. So you get the picture of her. You got it in your head? 17, dropped out of high school, connected with a drug dealer, had an attitude problem where you better get out my face because I know everything, was disconnected from my family at that time. And here I am, I found myself pregnant. And I'm pregnant with a brown boy. And I often wonder if it would have been different if it was a brown girl. Probably not, but because it was a brown boy, it resonated with me more. Because stats would say I'm gonna lose my son. Because again, I was raised in the projects. My father left when I was 8. My mother and father divorced. I remember living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Elm City Projects, a Webster Street 2-bedroom, probably total 700, 800 square feet. It's myself, my brother, my sister, my other brother, my cousin, my aunt, and my mother and myself, all in this 2-bedroom apartment. I remember that. And so that was my surroundings. It was my surroundings in the projects when they really were projects. Like right now in Connecticut, they look nice. But they were really projects with water bugs, like not roaches, water bugs. There's roaches on steroids. But that was my surroundings. So I want you to get
your real life.
My real life. So this is why I'm trying to paint this image so you can understand how powerful this thing is, how powerful this thing is if you learn self-mastery. And here she is, she's 17, ends up pregnant, made a lot of perceived mistakes. And people thought that was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. Like, now what else could I do? What else can I do wrong? What other mistakes can I do to just damn my life? And, but what I know is, and what I know for sure is, only God can make what people perceive as your pitfall to be your biggest pillar. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. When people thought that I failed and when I made the worst mistake of my life, that is when things shifted for me, and it ended up being the best thing that could happen in my life. And it shifted the way I did things and the way I thought, because life was no longer about me. Stats would say, I'm gonna lose my baby to the streets, I'm gonna lose this brown boy to the jail cell, I'm gonna lose this brown boy 6 feet under. And he was dependent on every choice that I would make in my life. Like, he didn't ask to be brought in this world. He didn't ask to be brought and bore birth to a teenage mother with a drug dealing dad. He didn't ask for a mother to be a high school dropout. He didn't ask for the mother to be raised in the projects and had nothing to offer. He didn't ask for that, right? He's birthed into this. But I'm accountable. I'm accountable. And so I took that fear factor, which is good fear, and we'll talk about fear in these classes. But I took that fear factor and I twisted the energy and I reshifted the energy to make me propel. So because I knew that his life was directly linked to my life, like it was directly linked, there's nothing I could do, like except be the best example that I could be. When I had no examples, like I had no example. You know, my mother, I do remember seeing her go to school, and when we were growing up and getting a master's degree and catching buses to go to school, I remember that, and that was an example, I'll give that. But outside of that, there was nothing. So, being on welfare, I'll never forget getting that check out the mailbox, $417 a month. $417 a month. I remember every time I say that number, I visualize the check. $417 a month was my check to provide for me and my son. Now, think about what can $417 really do? Like, really, what are you going to do with that? So, you could imagine the financial struggle there. You could imagine, here I am, 17, little girl, dropped out of school with a $417 a month check and a son to raise on her own. Because, as I said, his father, you know, he was out there and he was still out there and he wasn't there. So I know many of you watching this, watching right now can identify with that, being a single mother. But as a single mother, you do what you have to do. Because you have to do what you have to do. Now, I ended up pushing so much that I really didn't realize how far I pushed. And this is why I love these classes. God must have put like a blindfold on me because I just was in kind of like a state of emergency of like, I just have to push, I just have to get something different, I just have to change for him, I just need him to be better. Where I really didn't realize the magnitude of the shift in my life until later on. And this is why I'm very transparent, and this is why I share it with everyone. So I remember saving money to get a bicycle for me, not my son, to save money to get a bicycle with a chair. You know how you have the chair in the back? With a chair and a helmet for him, because I couldn't afford anything else, and even the buses was becoming unaffordable. So I remember that time. And I also remember always looking past that time. Always like, okay, yeah, I'm in this situation, but I'm not gonna stop. I cannot stop, because every time I looked at my son's eyes, every time I looked at him, I realized that his future was laying in the balance. I had to do this for him. And went back to school, ended up going to community college because I hadn't taken my SATs, and ended up getting an internship. So I had an internship at Yale University, which is one of the largest employers in New Haven, Connecticut, and it was a great job, right? So I was making $9.14 an hour. So from $417 a month to $914 an hour, that was good. I was doing good. You know, I crossed over. I was making more than $417 an hour. But I was working in the mailroom. See, whatever you do, you have to do it with everything within you. You can't have behind do anything. And when you're after your dream, and you're after financial freedom, and you're after liberty, and you're after your purpose in life, and when you realize life is bigger than you, whatever you do, you're gonna do it with all that's in you. Let me tell you, I was the best mail sorter you ever want to see. I was sorting that mail, because I knew it was just a stepping stone to where I was going. Even though I didn't understand it, even though I didn't know where I was going, I knew it was a stepping stone. And that's how I approach life with every single thing that I did. So at Yale, I stayed there for 8 years and got 9 promotions until I was second in control of the entire department as an associate administrator. And that, you know, was pretty cool, right? That was pretty cool. And I was working grants and contracts and money and all that good stuff. But then I got the break that people, like my family, was like, woo, they were happy and cheering me on. It was just like the thing I was waiting for. Like, I hit that finish line. And that's when I got a job, and one of the faculty members from Yale brought me on to go work for him and doubled my salary. I'm making 6 figures, had a chauffeur that brought me from New York to my doorstep. I had, like I said, a 6-figure job. I managed a budget of $59 million and a staff of over 50 people. That would have been what many people thought as a finish line. Think about that. I was a 17-year-old girl, pregnant, welfare, and all this other stuff. Went to Yale University, started in the mailroom, ended up pushing to get these promotions. And then it seems like I got the break in my life. But what I don't want to neglect here is in between there, when I was in the mailroom, I took advantage of the programs that that company had to offer. And that's when I purchased my first house that changed my entire life. So real estate is a powerful thing. My first property yielded me over $250,000, first investment. And we'll talk more about real estate, but I don't want to miss that very important detail. My first real estate investment yielded me over $250,000. And my only thought process was, how was I going to put a roof over my son's head? I bought a 4-family house with $9.14 an hour. So don't tell me what you can't do or what you can't afford. It's just how you do it. So along the lines, I'm investing in real estate. So now I got the job that, everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like double salary chauffeur in New York. It was just great. But I did something that many of you are probably very, very fearful of doing and can't muster up the courage to do this. I left that 6-figure job managing over $59 million with a staff of over 50. I left that job. I put on blindfolds and I jumped off the cliff because I figured if I can make this company $20 million in 2 years with this mindset, what can I do for myself? And on top of that, it's important that you understand what your purpose is and that you're in tune with who you are and what you are and why you are. And when you are, you realize that your life is really not about the money. It's really about fulfilling that purpose. So yes, I left a 6-figure job and was crazy enough to think that I could start a company in my basement with 1 telephone line, with 2 rings, a ring for when I knew a fax was coming and a ring where I could pick it up and say, Outreach Realty, how can I help you? In my basement with water coming down. 6-figure job. Think about that. If you're gonna bet on anyone, bet on you as long as you are in tune with who you are. Because we put limits on ourselves. God doesn't put limits on you, you put limits on you. When you realize who you are, your design, your purpose, there's no limits of what you can be, what you can create, the outcomes in life. Now, when I started this company, was it easy? Oh, no. And we're gonna talk about that. Sometimes I wish I could pack my bags back up and go back to the company and sit at my desk and get back on the plantation. But is it worth it? Oh, you best believe. Because it's a powerful thing to say that I sign my own paychecks. That's a powerful thing to say. I sign my own paychecks. And guess what? I will not worry about a pink piece of paper. I don't care about a pink piece of paper because I'm not laying myself off. That's powerful. That's a powerful thing to say. Can you say that? And if not, then after this course, you're gonna be saying it, or you're gonna be equipped to be able to do it. The choice is yours. Right. The choice is definitely yours, from welfare to wealth. There's a lot to my story, but understand that if I can do it, so can you do it. You can do it. There's no obstacle that can really stop you. The only obstacle that can stop you is you and you alone. As so long as you are in tune with your purpose, your passion, and who you are unstoppable. I'm still on a road to, I'm not even sure where it's gonna end, but I'm still pushing, just like from day one. I'm still pushing, and I'm not gonna stop because I have my son now. I don't have any grandchildren, but someday I hope to have them. Great-grandchildren I'm fighting for. My great-great-grandchildren I'm fighting for. My great-great-great-great-grandchildren I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for generations. See, it's bigger than me, and it should be bigger than you. I'm fighting for generations. Children and that I'll never see. Oh, but they're gonna know my name because I set them up. I broke that curse of poverty over my life, which trickled down to over my children's life, which is gonna break it over every piece of generation that comes after me, and that is my mission. So, welcome to the Self-Mastery course.
And I want to say, I hope you guys can see it. I don't want to get teary-eyed. No, seriously, what I realized, and I think where our connection and bond is your story echoes my mother's story so much. And my mom was a single mom. She was an 18-year-old mom. My mom was actually almost forced to get an abortion. She was on the abortion table with me when she got up. Like my grandfather brought her to the abortion clinic. She was on the table, literally got up before the doctor walked in. And I remember being 6, 7 years old, and my mom bought a bike with the
with the helmet,
with the seat on the back.
Yeah, see,
because we couldn't afford a car.
Yeah.
Like we literally, we couldn't afford a car, so we walked. We took the bus. My mom rode a bike. I remember her always wanting to push forward and progress. So we lived with my grandmother in a very small, like a 50 square foot room, like a closet, with a twin size bed, my mom, myself, and my younger sister, all three of us in one bed. We elevated from that bed over to a 2-family, low income house in a poor section of a suburb in New Jersey. And in that 2-bedroom was then my mom, myself, my sister, my stepfather came home from prison. We adopted my cousin, and then my mom had my little brother. So it ended up being 6 of us in a 2-bedroom, similar as you were saying. And then my mom would upgrade to a 3-bedroom in that community. And then my mom, inevitably she wanted to buy a house. And so she just always kept chugging along just always having a forward-thinking vision for us and our family. So I just think about so many of those instances, and similar to you when you talked about your son being your why. My daughter was the reason why I left the block and why I left the corner. When I thought to myself, what am I doing to make my 7-year-old daughter proud? Like my daughter, I bought her all the things in the world, but when she was 7 years old and it was parent-teacher day or career day for your parents, and it was like, what does your dad do? I had to come in and say, Daddy did real estate, but Daddy wasn't doing real estate. Daddy was on the real estate selling dope. So that was just a driving factor for me to create a legacy, something that she can be proud of. And now my daughter's 17, 4.0 GPA last year, in a private school, on her way to some college somewhere, interviewing for Princeton and Brown and top universities. The same 7-year-old daughter whose daddy was the drug dealer can now be proud that her dad is an international real estate developer, 2-time best-selling author, TV personality, real estate expert, influencer, humanitarian, CEO of multi-million-dollar enterprise. And so that's the motivation that we want to give you all. And it just ain't me, it's just not hers. I mean, there's other people in the world, but we're going to give you these self-mastery tools today. We didn't intend for your intro to be so long. Your lessons will be a little more concise as we go forward. Hopefully you are motivated, inspired by this. Welcome to the J. Morrison Academy Self-Mastery course.